Let's start with the horrible crimes and work our way to the most inhumane crimes committed in history. At number 10, we have a very weird but also horrible crime that has been occurring for close to 2 decades. More than 20 human feet have been found at the shore of rivers in Canada, British Columbia, to be exact, and Washington District of California in the United States. Some of these feet may still be found in hiking boots and sneakers. This has led many to believe that you could be the work of a serial killer who has a foot fetish or something and target hikers in the woods. There are other speculations that it might be the handiwork of human traffickers or drug cartels who killed innocent victims on the high sea. To complicate matters, some of the feet are identified with people who died mysteriously, of natural causes, or by suicide. In the several years that these incidents have continued to occur, there have been no known suspects or a motive behind these heinous crimes. All we've heard are speculations and rumors, and honestly, that just makes it more complicated. Number 9. The Black Dahlia. Just like the feet that washed up shore in British Columbia and Washington, D.C., the Black Dahlia incident wasn't credited to anyone in particular, or wherever it was, one of the most widely publicized crimes and gruesome murders of the 1940s. Some people have called the incident the most publicized crime of post-war America. The victim, who would later come to be known as Black Dahlia, was a young woman called Elizabeth Short. Elizabeth was born in 1924 and lived for just 22 years when she was gruesomely murdered in 1947. While walking through a park in Los Angeles, a woman by the name of Betty Bersinger saw the body. At first, this innocent thought she was looking at was a mannequin that has been discarded and no longer in use. Elizabeth Short wasn't just killed, but she was severely mutilated. For example, her very beautiful young face was bashed in, and our body was sawed or cut in half. Betty finally came to terms with the fact she had just seen the weird body of an innocent victim. The police tried to build a case, and in the course of their investigations, they arrested about 150 suspects. However, they could not make anything stick. No one was actually convicted of the crime. Number 8. The kidnap and subsequent murder of Kelly Ann Bates. This horrible and very unfortunate incident occurred in 1996. At the time of her death, Kelly was just 17 years old, not even a legal adult. She was murdered by her boyfriend, a terrible man called James Patterson Smith. The whole incident took place for 4 weeks. Law enforcement officers and notes from the pathologist who performed Kelly's autopsy reveal that she suffered in those 4 weeks. She had several injuries, she was chained down, and was drowned in a bathtub. After 4 weeks of captivity, James Smith finally murdered her. He was arrested and now serves a life sentence in prison. Number 7. The murder of Tamiko Washington. The story of this young mother in Detroit, USA, is nothing short of unfortunate and horrible. The 36-year-old woman who was the mother of 14-year-old Joshua Smith, who is no way related to James Smith, whom we talked about earlier. The young boy wanted to hang out with known gang members in the area, and haven't she did her best to keep him away from the streets, and for that, Joshua was very angry at her. And so on this fateful day, on February 2012, Tamiko ensured that her son kept his curfew of 11 p.m. as usual. As always, Joshua was not pleased with this. Statements from family members who were present in the house on that day revealed that he went into his room to talk and stayed there until 3 a.m. in the morning. After which, he broke into his stepfather's room, took a 12-gauge shotgun filled with bullets, walked into the living room where his mother was sleeping on the couch, and shot her 10 times with the gun. The story gets worse when it is revealed that Tamika Robinson had lupus and was at the time on dialysis. She was survived by her fiancé and a 5-year-old girl. After he killed his mother, Joshua tried to make a run for it by escaping in his mother's car. He was finally caught by the police and was sentenced to 50 years in prison. Number 6. The confessing ghost of Teresita Basa. This case is both horrible and paranormal. On the 21st of February, 1997, the gruesome murder of healthcare worker Teresita Basa occurred in Chicago, Illinois. She was stabbed many times and subsequently set ablaze with her apartment. However, although the crime is horrible, the police were unable to find a suspect who had a clear motive to commit such a crime. This is where the weird part arises. Some days later, after her supposed death, police investigators received a tip from another woman in the same area about the name Remy Chua. In her own words, Remy claims to have been possessed by the spirit of Teresita. She claims that a fellow colleague at the hospital by the name of Alan Showery was the perpetrator of this evil, that he had come to Teresita's home, robbed her, killed before finally setting the place ablaze. At first, the police were skeptical about that tip, but they eventually invited around for questioning, and after much deliberation, he confessed to the crime. To further clear any doubt, some of Teresita's stolen jewelry were found in possession of Alan's girlfriend. This case was one of the only ones in history where a tip from a paranormal source was used in court. Number 5. The murder of Emmett. Many people in America are familiar with the story of Emmett Till. But if you haven't heard about it, here we go. Emmett Louis Till was a 14-year-old boy from Chicago, Illinois. He was born in 1941 and died in 1955 during some of the greatest civil liberty struggles that African Americans had to contend with. He traveled to Mississippi to visit distant relatives. While there, he was having a nice time with his cousins in the front of a small grocery store. On this fateful day, the wife of the store owner, a 20-year-old woman called Caroline Bryant, came out of the store and walked past Emmett and his cousins. It was reported that Emmett spoke to, or must have whistled at the said woman, 4 days after the events of the grocery store. Bryant's husband and his half-brother walked into the house of Emmett Till's great-uncle, dragging him out of bed right in front of his family, who were unable to do anything since both perpetrators were armed. They beat him until he was unconscious, and afterwards shot him in the head. His body was found 3 days later from the river of the area. His body was bloated and almost unrecognizable. After his body was recovered and transported back to Chicago, his mother demanded that he have an open casket funeral, so that the whole world could see the evil these racists had done to her son. There were no criminal charges on the perpetrators, and just recently, Carolyn Bryant, the said victim of his catcalling, confessed on her deathbed that Emmett was polite and didn't whistle at her. Number 4. The Man from Norway. Just like the story of Emmett Till, the Norway Massacre was also born out of hate and racism. It was in 2011 when Anders Breivik killed over 77 people in Oslo, Norway. He set off a bomb that killed dozens and injured others. He didn't stop there. He went to a youth convention where he killed another 69 lives and injured hundreds. In all, more than 500 people were killed or brutally injured in the attacks. After he was arrested, he was questioned, after which he confessed to some of the worst crimes. He went further to say that the series of events that led to the death of close to 200 people was necessary. He was charged and sentenced to 21 years in prison. Number 3. The September 11 attacks. On the 11th of September 2011, the world changed forever. You no doubt have heard of 911 in movies or on social media. The September 11 attacks, as they will come to be known, was a coordinated terror attack on America. The terrorist group Al-Qaeda took responsible attacks, an incident that took close to 3,000 lives and injured thousands of others. American airplanes were hijacked by these terrorists, and they crashed them into the World Trade Center in New York and the Pentagon. After the attacks, America officially declared war on terror and have set up some of the greatest military responses in history. Number 2. The Zodiac Killer. This may appear as something straight out of a movie, but it is very real and happened to very real people. The Zodiac Killer operated in the 1960s and 70s and remains one of the most elusive serial killers in history. The Zodiac Killer is known for sending ciphers and puzzles to law enforcement to try to crack the code to catch him. Rumors have it. And he also claims to have killed close to 40 people. However, law enforcement officials can only credit 7 deaths to him. Until now, nobody knows who the Zodiac Killer is, but there are some speculations that he is still out there hunting for targets. Despite not knowing his character or him personally, many actors and filmmakers have adapted the Zodiac Killer story as the plot to theirs. Number 1. The Sandy Hook Elementary School Massacre. There have been many school shootings in America over the past decades. However, the December 2012 mass shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Connecticut remains one of the most gruesome and heart-rending tragedies of all time. Over 6 teachers and adults were killed, and there was the unfortunate death of 20 kids at the school. A man by the name of Adam Lanza is the primary perpetrator of this sick evil. Before he went on to elementary school, he started the day by killing his mother in her home where they both lived, a place not too far away from the school. After the mass shooting at the school, Adam turned the gun on himself and committed suicide. It was a tragedy for parents, the state of Connecticut, and all citizens of America at the time, as it was the deadliest mass shooting in history,